Just a minute before we go live. Cool, looks like we're live. Hi, everyone. Welcome to VR Pistachio. VR Pistachio is a community built by relocating spouses for relocating spouses. Our vision is no relocating spouse is ever alone. And our mission is to unlock the personal, professional, and economic potential of every relocating spouse. So what do we do here at VR Pistachio? We, there are three pillars basically that VR Pistachio is built on. We have upskilling, we have mentorship, and we have networking. And towards that, we've had almost 35 events and counting, upskilling events. We've had two mentorship pods, very successful ones at that, where the placement rate for our mentees has been almost 80%. And we've had 12 networking events. So that's just to give you an idea of what we've done so far at VR Pistachio. Aditi Patil, who's here on with us today, she's the founder of VR Pistachio. In her day job, Aditi is a leadership coach and works in learning and development. I'm Dipali Paul. I'm the co-founder of VR Pistachio. I come from an entrepreneurship background, so that's just a little bit about the faces behind VR Pistachio. It's a completely volunteer-run organization. So we have Isha, who's on this call with us. She's a volunteer with us. We have Mansi, who's a volunteer, who's here as well. So, basically all of us make VR Pistachio what it is today. We often get asked why VR Pistachio, what's in the name? It's a lot of curiosity that people have about the name. We say that these are the 5 values that VR Pistachio lives by. The first one is open. The pistachio shell is slightly open, and relocating spouses are open to possibilities. The second one is happy. Pistachio is known as a happy nut in many cultures, and relocating spouses deserve happiness wherever they are. The third one is global. Yes, pistachio is a global nut, and relocating spouses are all over the globe. The fourth one is tough. Pistachio has this really hard shell. It's a tough nut, and so are relocating spouses. They are really tough and resilient. And the last one, which is our team's favorite, is nutty. Because yes, you have to be nuts to leave your family, your career, everything behind and move to a completely different country or a state. So those are the values that VR Pistachio we identify with. So that's a little bit about VR Pistachio. Now, without further delay, we start our event. A career break shouldn't be a career breaker, a panel discussion. We have Hannah, who's going to lead this, moderate this panel discussion. Hannah is a program manager with Reach Higher. We have Pavitra Venkatesan, Menaka Soni, and Sampada Tiwari, who have actually successfully returned to work after a career gap. And they're going to share their journey, and hopefully all of us, kind of get some takeaways from the experiences and insights that the 3 of our panelists have to share. So over to you, Hannah.
Thank you, Dipali. Appreciate the warm introduction. Also, I learned recently that if you have a tough pistachio shell to crack, you can use the opening of another pistachio shell to pop that other one open as to not ruin those thumbnails. So a little fun fact for you related to pistachios. I'm going to go ahead and just share my screen for one moment, just to introduce myself and Reach Higher and the folks that are with me today. So Reach Higher is working to change the trajectory for women in the workforce. And one of the ways that we do that is through return to work programs, where we help mostly women and some men who have taken intentional career breaks get back into the workforce. So we've designed these corporate partnerships where we have positions that are available at our corporate partners and we do the hiring and the placement, and then we coach our individuals through a cohort model and a 6 to 12-month return to work journey where you work full-time at our client sites and you're supported by a program manager like me or Ariel, and are coached and supported with a 360 support module all around you to make sure that you have a successful transition back to work. I will notify you of some open positions we are recruiting for at the very end of today's session. But I am here with 3 of our fantastic alumni from our programs, and I'm going to shift into having them introduce themselves. I do have questions to guide our conversation today. However, if you as a listener or a viewer, whether on Facebook or with us on Zoom, you are able to submit your own questions if you have curiosities. So we have 2 individuals from ReachHire here to read the chat box. We have Alexis, who is here from our marketing team. And then we have Ariel, who's another program manager who I work alongside with. So I do have 7 or 8 questions to guide our conversation. However, if you have curiosities, please add them in the chat. We will shift over to a Q&A session around the 40-45 mark on the hour, and we welcome you to submit your curiosities. So first, I would like to have our panelists all introduce themselves. And I have a couple of questions for you all to use as you introduce yourselves. So your name, where you're located. If you did relocate, it'd be lovely to hear where you were located from. Your program participation details, a little bit about your career break, whatever calls to you for sharing. We'll give you about 2 or 3 minutes each to do that. And if you want to share like a fun, crazy purchase you made during the pandemic, which I'm sure some of us did, you're welcome to share that as well. So of Pavitra, Sampada, and Menka, whoever would like to go first on introducing themselves, I invite you to do so.
Thanks, Hannah. My name is Pavitra. Hi, everyone. I'm from Merrimack, New Hampshire. I work as a software engineer at Fidelity Investments. So last year, I started working with ReachHire. I got an opportunity. I applied to the returnships programs from ReachHire, and I got selected into Fidelity Resume program. Since then, I've been working here. And the reason I had to take a career break is I had to relocate from India to the United States with my partner, with my husband. So he had a job opportunity here and I accepted. I had to take a voluntary career break and I had to relocate here. So when I relocated here, it was a usual struggle. So for the first initial few years, I wasn't allowed to work in this country due to work authorization issues. And when I tried to return back to career, it was 4 years. So I kind of have 4+ years of career break. And I started working with ReachHire from 2020, and I applied to their returnship program. So that's how I got this opportunity, thanks to ReachHire. And the fun fact or the fun purchase I did during the pandemic is we purchased a Volvo XC60. My husband and I, we are crazy about cars. So we drove to New York and then we drove back from New York just to purchase a car. That's the crazy thing that I did during the pandemic.
That is so fun. I love that. Thank you, Pavitra, for introducing yourself. Sampada or Menka, either one of you that'd like to go next?
So I can go next. Hi, my name is Menka Soni. I'm based out of Seattle. And I'm working with T-Mobile in the capacity of the group program manager. So I took a career break. I shouldn't call that like, my break was a kind of a career break because I decided to go for an alternate career. Basically, I worked almost for 17, 18 years with the IT corporates like Microsoft, Starbucks, General Motors. And then I just decided to work for my soul, and that's where we started. And I launched my nonprofit organization, and I worked 7 years selflessly, bringing up that baby. I am a mother, a proud mom of 2 daughters, but for me, this was my 3rd baby. So like any other mother, I took that break to raise this baby. And when this baby is like, now 7 years old, I decided, I need to work for my family as well to, support my husband. My daughter was going to college, and that's where I decided, okay, I need to get back into workforce. So for me, because I had this baby and had to get back to workforce, so definitely it was a challenge for me. But thanks to Rehire, I was able to get back into workforce very successfully. And fun fact, and what I did, I would say, because COVID actually gave us an opportunity to work more on our nonprofit side and help the humanity. So we purchased over 200,000 pounds of groceries to be distributed for the homeless people. And every other day, I was at Costco standing with the huge, carts full loads of groceries that almost everybody now there they know who I am. So that was a kind of a fun thing for me to do during this pandemic.
That's a big purchase. Thank you, Menka. And Sampana, last but not least, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Hannah. I'm Sampada Tiwari. I'm located in Boston, Massachusetts, and I work as a senior strategic program manager with Fidelity Investments. I joined Fidelity as a consultant in October 2020. Sorry, I'm still at the lost of what year we are in. So 2020, it was through Rehire's Resume program. Very grateful to them, and I can talk about more later during our conversation. But I think and then in April of this year, after my consulting contract was about to end, I got an opportunity to convert full-time with Fidelity Investment. So here I am as a full-time employee with Fidelity Investment. The reason my career break was not a long one, it was a 2-year career break. And unfortunately, I had to take this break to help my mom take care of my sick dad. My dad unexpectedly falls sick. And my family, my parents were back in India. I did not want to leave my mom alone to take care of him. Initially, I took some days off, some long leave, but then I think it needed more time for me to be there with them. So I decided to quit my job. And then I was there helping my mom. And once I returned to India, returned back from India, I took a little bit more time to kind of start thinking about going back to work. So, and during that process, I connected with Rehire, connected with Ariel through LinkedIn, and came to know about this wonderful opportunity. And that's how I landed a great opportunity to kind of get back into workforce. My fun fact is also related to grocery shopping. I would say at the start of the pandemic, when we were not going out to the grocery shops and were ordering online groceries, it was kind of a challenge to book a slot for either Costco or other grocery shops to deliver. So you are either waking up at midnight or 4 a.m. in the morning and trying to book that slot so that groceries can be delivered on time. And then somehow I kind of sort of figured out the algorithm when the slots opened up, and I was able to help some senior citizens in my town to kind of get some grocery delivery conveniently delivered to their home as well.
Very nice. We all got a little of that practice in, watching the testing sites, adding buckets of testing opportunities, and the vaccine sites adding appointments, and the grocery deliveries adding us slots. So we all got good at that. Thanks, Sampana. So the first question is, the decision to return back to work can be a difficult one. And Menka and Sampana, you both shared a little bit about your decision to come back to work. If there's anything you'd like to add, you're welcome to do that. Or we can start with Pavitra and her decision to return to work. How did you make that decision? And why did it turn out that you decided to go back to work?
Sure. Thanks, Hannah. I kind of always thought of going back to work whenever I get my work authorization back. But by the time I got my work authorization, it was almost around 4 years since I was out of work. So what I did is I happened to contemplate a lot at that time. I happened to have I also was working on my grad school admissions in the last 2 years during my career break. So it took me a while because I wasn't able to travel back to my home country to get all the materials needed for my grad school admission. So it took a little while than normal timeline. So by the time I had my work authorization back, I also had the grad school admission, and it was kind of a choice for me, which one to go for. So I contemplated a lot. I actually thought a lot about it. I asked some critical questions to myself, like, what are the transferable skills that I acquired along the way? And how does the current job market that matches my skill set? I did a lot of research on what I want to do, which area to focus on when I returned back to career. So eventually I came to a decision of going back to school to pursue my graduate studies in computer and information science, just to ramp up my skill set and to hone my confidence, to enter back the workforce. After an year at grad school, I eventually gained my confidence, felt confident and positive about looking for opportunities. I felt I was ready to go back to the works. That's when I applied to ReachHire to one of their returnship programs. And it was a fortuitous experience for me to begin my journey with Fidelity through ReachHire. So that's how I came to my decision to go back to the workforce.
Lovely. You got a little bit of both. You got to do the grad school experience, build your confidence, and then make the decision to go back to work. That's great. Menka or Sampada, is there anything you'd like to add here about your decision-making process? If not, we can move on to the next question.
Sure. As Pavitra mentioned, that going back to work was always on, it was not that I didn't want to go back to work. There was a reason for which I took a career break. And it was always on my mind too, that I would be kind of start interviewing, applying, and get back into work. It was about when. So when should I go back to work? So first I needed time to deal with what I had gone through. And then I was sort of also, this was the first time I was spending time with my 5-year-old at home since she was born. I mean, in terms of the duration of the time, the longest time I ever spent with her at home. So I was enjoying that. I was able to kind of take care of her. Because of pandemic, the daycares were closed. She was also home. So I think it was a good time to be home with family. So once my daughter, she went back to kindergarten, like she started her kindergarten last year. That's when I thought that since she is also starting her school, I can probably start applying for new roles and try to see what opportunities exist so that I'm able to keep myself busy. And the pandemic has kind of stopped all socializing as well. So this was also a good opportunity to kind of start like getting back into the social professional circle and talking to people. And that's when I started applying. There were ample opportunities, but most of them required me to relocate to West Coast. I wasn't ready to relocate. My family is here. So, and that's how I think when this opportunity came through, I just grabbed it.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you for sharing. That's actually a really great segue into our next question. Then Menka, if you feel starting the next question, you could do that. Is in the interest of making people not feel alone through this process, could you take us through the feelings you were having or the emotional journey of the recruitment process when you were applying for roles? I mean, I'm sure there have been lots of ups and downs. If you could give us an inside look into what that looked like to make the whole group not feel alone here, that would be lovely. Oh, you're muted.
Yep.
So definitely, like, when I started with this process, this was in January 2020 when, like, beginning of the year itself, I took a decision, okay, I'm getting back to work. And the question was like, now it has been 7 years break. So where am I going to land, and what kind of a career I'm really interested in pursuing? Because in my case, because I was already working, I went into an entrepreneurship side and have been working in the leadership roles, developed really great skills which I could have not learned it any other way. So I had now additional skill sets, and then I had an experience after working for 17, 18 years in the IT corporate. My question was like, which area or which direction I need to pursue. And that was one of the biggest challenge, because I was trying to ask myself, okay, where do I see myself, for the next in my next journey of IT career. And thankfully, in my case, when I joined Rechire, I was placed in the not only in the like kind of a IT organization, but it's also to deal with the business. So all my entrepreneurship experience was very well used in T-Mobile. Like I'm really able to do it great, because I get that experience. Question, Hannah, as you said, like how this journey, what I was contemplating, and how this process came across. So I would say definitely Rechire is one of the best thing that happened to me in the year 2020. The reason why I'm saying this thing, it's like, one of my friend told me about Rechire. She said, you should be applying there. And I applied, and it went through the process where I was interviewed by Rechire. Then my resume was forwarded to managers at T-Mobile. I was interviewed. And I have a different story, because in my first interview itself, the manager told me, you seem to be super senior, and I don't know if you will be able to do this thing. So I said, but I want to be honest as to what all I'm doing it. I never wanted to hide, because it's honesty is one big thing that your managers are looking out from. Then thankfully there was like, she did really like my profile, and there was another senior position that was open for me, and I was interviewed for that, and that's where I landed. But when this process was happening and my offer was given, what Rechire did to us, that was amazing, because the very first week was the training that was provided to us by Rechire. And it was not only a training to talk about some of the skill sets that we might have forgotten, like, even a simple thing like an Excel. You might have done all those things, but there are a lot of people, those who must have forgotten. So that's where Rechire was picking up those kinds of trainings to help everybody to work. For me, the best thing in this first 1 week of training was the cohort. You come across so many people, those who are bringing different ideas, different apprehensions, different thought process, and you are interacting with each of them, and you feel, oh, I am not alone in this journey. There are so many of us, those who are in that same boat, and we started helping each other. And even when we were placed back to work, there was this cohort with us. So it's like, oh, we have a group of sisters that we are joining this organization together. We will be holding hands, and if anybody is having any struggle, rest of the cohort would just uplift. So I think this entire process really helped us to make ourselves feel very comfortable and heard, and having all the support that we needed. So
You, Menka. You just answered like every question I have up for the panel. So right now we're focusing on the emotions that you felt during the recruitment process. So if Sampata or Pavitra, if you have anything you'd like to add here about the emotional experience, we would love to hear it.
Yeah, I would agree 100% with what Menka said, but I would say this, right at the onset of this journey, I think I talked to Sarah White from Rechire. I had mixed emotions. I was a little nervous, even though I mentioned, right, I was already interviewing. So it wasn't that I was kind of scared of the interview process or as such, but I think it was that going back to work after 2 years, I was a little apprehensive about that. I was a little like scared about that how am I going to like go in and fit right into that professional or the company culture? So I started speaking with Sarah White from Rechire. It was more about the role and how the interview process will go on. And then I was introduced to Arya, and she put me right at like ease by telling me that how they are going to support us through this journey. That was really helpful. The other thing that I was worried about was, since I was going back to work during a pandemic time where I would not be in office but working remote, I think the support that I would probably look for when I'm starting in a new role, I was little kind of concerned that how is that going to happen? Because if you walk into office, you can walk up to the desk of your manager or your colleagues and you can have like any questions answered. But with working remote, how are you going to develop that rapport with your colleagues or your manager? So that was another concern that I had. But I think, as Menka mentioned, that uh, we started with that first week of training with Rechire, which was not just software skills training, but also like communication skills, and then how we are going to kind of start thinking about what we are going to do next. So that was really helpful. That put me at ease, and I started to become comfortable because there was this whole cohort, the big cohort, which was there to help and support you while you were working remote.
Thank you. Pavitra, if there's anything you'd like to add, you can jump in and we can move on.
Definitely, yeah. So Sampada and Menka, they almost like summarized everything that I had in mind. Just that one thing that I felt when I was going through the recruitment process is, as a person who had a career break at that time, so I've been talking to many recruiters, and what I commonly found with recruiters is that they look down on your career break. Even though you have all the skill sets required, even though you are so confident in your interview, I never got a proper interview to showcase my skills, only because of that career break. So I was focused more only on how to avoid the career break on the resume. So when I spoke to Rechire, it was altogether a new experience for me that somebody is encouraging me to be completely open and honest about my career break, but also to emphasize more on the skills that I be bringing to the table. So that's the moment when I heard from Rechire on about, to be completely honest about the career break. That's the moment I know that this journey is something that's going to be amazing, that I'm about to embark upon.
Lovely. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you all for letting us into your experience a little bit. Anyone who's tuning in on Facebook or Zoom, don't forget that you can add your questions to the chat. Thank you, Dipali, for that notice. We're on the same page here. I was just going to say, on Facebook, you can submit questions as well, and Dipali will pass them our way. So the next question we have, I'm going to ask two questions here, and I'm curious which one you'll choose to answer. So this journey returning to work is full of surprises. So you can either tell us about something that surprised you pleasantly or a challenge that you weren't expecting and what that was like. So whatever part of that question resonates with you. And whoever wants to start can jump in.
So maybe I can start.
Okay. And then I'll go to Pavitra next because I saw you about to speak too. Yeah.
That's all right. Yeah.
So, in my case, as I did touched upon this in my previous question as well, when I joined, I was definitely looking out for a place or a work where I can utilize my experience, like, the experience that I have gained in the last 7 years. And but at the same time, I was really, really apprehensive because I was getting back into an IT role after 7 years of break. And the way IT is just changing, rapidly changing, I knew that I'm way behind. So, like, for example, I worked on SharePoint all these years, but when I joined, I was really scared. I don't know, I think I have forgotten. One thing that really surprised me, it's like, even though when you are taking a break, whether you have worked or you have not worked, you are learning a lot of skills. You are learning life skills. You are learning, even when you are your social skills, interacting with people. So every single moment we all are learning. something on you. And when you get back to work, you can realize, like, for me, I tell you, this was a pleasant surprise that what all I learned in all these 7 years of break, they have actually helped me to become stronger and much better. So when I get back to work, I was able to pick it up very fast because I did learn those life skills. I did learn those skills. So this was a pleasant surprise from my end.
Awesome. I love that. And transferable skills, absolutely. When we interview and prep all of our returners for their interviews with our clients, it's remember all the things you've been doing. You're volunteering, you might be a parent, you might be a caretaker. There are so many skill sets that come along with that experience during the break. So thank you for shedding light on that, Menka. Pavitra, go ahead.
Sure, thanks, Hannah. So there, honestly, the transition from return to work to becoming a professional was so handled smoothly with the help of ReachHire and the cohort system. It was such an outstanding support from the cohort system that it's comforting to know the fact that you're not going through something alone. There are many people on the same journey with you, to help you along, to celebrate your success with. That's something that's such a positive feeling. In spite of all those, yes, there were a few surprises, especially as a woman in technology. If I am not being in touch with technology for a few months, I'd feel like lost because the technology is moving so fast in the current world. When I went back, especially as a software engineer, after 4 years of break, it was the world of difference to me. So to some extent, yes, the grad studies that I did helped me handle that. The research that I did on the current market and those few other things that on my own end, the research and other things that helped me a lot. But when I went into the organization, of course, for a big organization like Fidelity, there were a lot of documentations to begin with. You don't know where to begin. That's naturally, you feel overwhelmed at that time. So those were the small surprises that came my way. But eventually, ReachHire has prepped me to, utilize all those surprises or challenges or uncertainties. That's the word that I should be using here, uncertainties, to our benefit. So that's exactly what I did. I turned all those uncertainties to my benefit just by accepting them. Because when you take a career break, the uncertainty is going to be inevitable as part of your journey. So that's all I did was to embrace the uncertainty and stay curious. That helped me to handle a lot of surprises on my way.
Absolutely. It's a really great point. Thank you.
I would just add that I would concur with Menka and Pavitra. I think for me, I came from a very technical background. I was a technical program manager. And while I was on a career break, I was like upgrading my skill set to stay relevant. But when I joined the team at Fidelity, it was more about product management, so strategic program management rather, which I would say I had like less experience with. So if it was like technology, I'm up to date. Could be a go-to person. But when it comes to like strategic program management, I had a learning curve. But I think going into the job with all the ReachHire support and the training, the first week of training, I would say, so I wouldn't say that the software skills or the office skills training that we got was kind of would say that it was a revision for me. But I think the other aspects of the training really prepared me to kind of just take this role head on.
Thank you all for answering that one. The next question is actually a little bit tied to what Sampana had just said, is during your career break and your decision to come back to work, were there any upskilling resources, online tools, or opportunities that you took advantage of to prepare yourself to come back to work?
I can probably start. So yes, when we are planning to return back to work, it is important to start. I think, these are kind of, just kind of a warm up exercises for us to do. So definitely it makes sense to go back and check on the skill sets that we have. So, do a kind of an assessment. Where do we stand on these skill sets? And if there is anything that, we want to upgrade. So for me, instead of upgrading my technical and IT skills, I wanted to focus on a different path altogether. So yes, I also took an diversity and inclusion training from Cornell University, because in my during that 7 years break, I actually worked with City of Renton Mayor as his appointed inclusion task force member, and I was responsible in 3 different cities for diversity and inclusion. So I said, why can't I use that experience bundled with a formal certification or a degree and take that experience in T-Mobile? So I did that certification, and right after I joined, I actually become a part of the employee diversity committee, because this is diversity, inclusion, and equity is a topic and is an important required function in every organization. So there is a group where I just joined, and even though that is not a kind of a part of my full-time role, but that is also equally important, and that's where I was able to add a value to the organization, that not only I'm coming to perform my regular work, I'm also able to perform the other areas, the other functions that organization is looking out for. So that became a kind of an additional plus for me. So, so to answer, yes, there is definitely value in upgrading skills.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate that you bring that up, because a lot of organizations are like looking at a resume for where that someone might be able to add value, put in discretionary effort in another area of the business. And that can add so much value to you as an applicant. So I love that you brought up an alternative resource or opportunity for adding it to your skill set. Any others want to talk about upskilling resources, or just any opportunity in general you took advantage of to prepare to come back to work?
Yeah, I would say that how I look at it is the role that you want to kind of join, right? So you are planning to return to work, you have some prior experience, and you have experience in a certain field. If you are kind of looking at those roles where you have experience, or if you're looking at another role, it's really good to understand what is kind of ongoing in those roles, like what are the skill sets that you need to meet the requirements for those goals, and then kind of upgrade yourself with respect in terms of those skill sets, right? And there are many online resources, online learning available to you to do that. The other thing I would also say is that the voluntary experience, even if you are not kind of go back to full-time work or not working full-time, whatever couple of hours in a day or in a few hours in a week, if you are spending that time volunteering for a cause, that also a great add on your resume, because I think in terms of like you were on a career break, but it's not that you were on a break like from everything. It's you were still out there doing something meaningful, still helping out people. And when you do any volunteering work, it takes skills, right? It could be project management skills. You could be volunteering in a IT field. So it will take those maybe some other IT related skills. So all those experiences add up. And what I saw with like Reach Hire providing guidance on a resume, or with the Fidelity where I interviewed it, my manager was really impressed with those like volunteering skills as well. It kind of add to your resume and it provides value. It doesn't like, it's not like that you were on a career break and you were not doing anything.
Absolutely. I love that you all are bringing this up. Thank you. Go ahead, Pavitra.
Yeah, so volunteering is a great way to, again, I'm not going to repeat that thing. It's hands down, it's a great way to upskill your skills, and you're also doing something to your community, which means that you care about people around you. The bigger organizations, for example, if you take Fidelity, they encourage volunteering inside the organization. As a full-time employee, I still am participating in a lot of volunteering activities across the organization. That is a great way to do. The other way that I would say is use the technology to the fullest. The LinkedIn or any professional websites, they are amazing in telling you what's current in the technology or what's current in the field that you're looking for. Do a lot of research and network, because for me, what it personally helped is reaching out to people or my ex-colleagues to get in touch with them, to just get reacquainted, reconnected, to get a couple of recommendations or endorsements on your profile for the work that you did, even in your past career. That makes a lot of difference in your profile. That gives you some kind of encouragement to go forward. And that's when you realize that what are the skills that you need to work on and what you currently have. So when you decide to upskill, there are always like, the websites or applications like Udemy, LinkedIn Learning, or you have Pluralsight. All those there are tons of resources around. So in general, using the technology to the fullest is always going to help when you decide to come back to workforce.
Amazing. I will also add, you'd be surprised what you can have access to via your local public library as well. You could find a lot of like online subscriptions to magazines and print and online resources. So, and it's free with a library card. So that's something I'll add there as well. I see a lot of head nods, so I'm sure that you are not alone in knowing about that. Awesome. Don't forget, we're going to move into Q&A in just a moment here. I have one more question for the panel that comes from our bucket of questions. Is advice for this group? How would you advise that someone prepare for their return to work journey? And this can be like emotional preparation. This could be anything that you did to really get yourself ready in the headspace. Whatever advice you have for someone who's thinking about returning to work.
Okay, I'll go first again on this. So, for me, I would say the moment you are taking a decision that you want to get back to workforce, it's important to have a discussion with your family. Because all these years, it's like, when we were on the break, there were a lot of things that we were handling. And this is not just going to be one person's decision. It's also going to impact your family. So definitely, like, the having a discussion with the family, setting up the right expectations, and making sure that, everybody is ready to support in this journey is important. The second step would be to definitely prepare yourself with additional skill sets, networking. As Pavitra mentioned, definitely reaching out to people from your previous organizations or anybody in the network. Networking really makes a huge difference. So reaching out to those people, because end of the day, when you are joining or going back to work, the people, those who know about your good work, are the people, those who are your colleagues in the past. So they are a good point to start. So reaching out to those people, upgrading your skills, networking. And then the third step, then I would say that, start preparing your resume. I think that takes a while to do your resume, because resume building after this career break is a little hard. Sometimes we don't even know what we did in these previous years. Like, honestly, when I was looking at my resume, I couldn't believe, oh, I did all this in when I was working. So when I had to update my resume, then I actually went over all my previous work that I did. And then I was asking my question, am I still relevant to do all those things? And then I said, yes, I know, I can do this. So then that really helped me to get my confidence back. Okay, I can still do it. Nice. So, that helps you to identify and say, what you are looking out for. So putting up your resume with those skill sets, the journey that you have done. And one thing that I would say, be honest. That's what it's really important to be honest, because when we are applying for jobs again, there will be questions associated with this. And there are a lot of companies, in fact, like, knowing, and I know, Hannah, this you would know because you are like, you are like, this is what you are doing your day in and day out. Like major corporations, they are now focusing on bringing women back to work, those who have taken career breaks. So there are opportunities available. So we don't have to be shy about being honest. And then, then start applying for these jobs, finding out where we can apply. It may and may not work. Like, to be very honest, yes, I started applying and there wasn't always a rosy answer coming it. Oh, you know what, your resume got shortlisted. Yes, there were rejections, but trust that these rejections are not for you as a person. They are because your skill sets were not aligned with what that organization or that job was looking out for. So don't get disheartened, because there will be a match. There definitely is going to be a match one day, and it will happen. So,
Absolutely.
these are a few tips that I just wanted to share.
Yeah, resilience. I love that so much. And then also mentioning the resume. So we are going to offer a workshop series at the end of the summer regarding resumes, networking, preparing for interviews, LinkedIn, and all that jazz. So we'll have our marketing team share that out with the We Are Pistachio group as well and offer that. And then the people in your network who are doing the work that you're interested in doing, ask them to look at your resumes as well. They can give the greatest advice. What other advice do our panelists have for our participants?
I just had one more thing to what Menka said, and which is really important, that don't think of the career gap as a hindrance, as an obstacle, because for whatever reasons you took the career break, either to take care of your kid or your family or for your own self, it doesn't matter. I think once you start building your resume, you must have done some, even during your break, there must have been activities that you would have engaged with, which are either relevant to what you have done in the past or what you would be doing in the new role. So don't think about the career break as a hindrance to the next step. I think that is because if you think in your mind that, oh, I had a career break, then it would not make you feel confident. And that could be I would say, a drawback. But otherwise, I think the person who is looking at your resume are actually not thinking about that you had a break, but they're thinking more about what skill set or what value you bring to the table, what value you add to the team. So that's what they're thinking about. So I would say focus more on that rather than the gap that you had.
Absolutely. Mindset. It's all about the attitude.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to add a couple of things to that. Definitely, attitude makes a lot of difference. In a day, it takes a huge portion of your energy to maintain your attitude. Put aside the things that you do, it naturally comes from the energy and the attitude that you maintain throughout the day. So positive attitude is very important. The one main thing that I started with is I thought of this opportunity as rediscovering myself, because many people would enter their first jobs without knowing much, but this is a second chance that we get to rediscover yourself. For rediscovering ourselves, we need to first have a great understanding of ourselves. So I would generally write down a lot of questions that I have in mind, just like the way that I talk to myself. I would write it down. I try to jot down the answers for each and every question, specifically if I have anything in mind. That's the way that I used to work with ReachHire. So during my regular check-ins with my program manager at ReachHire, we work on this template for goal setting, for career roadmap, and well thought through questions about what I want to do, what are my strengths. After the meeting, I would be getting all the coaching notes. Looking at that, I would get a lot of clear thoughts in mind, because we can have a lot of thoughts in mind that can not have a defined form. But once you write it down, it has a clear form. So that is your first thing to go. Write down your strengths and put it in the notepad in front of you. See it every day and trust that that's you. You're going to become that. So that helped me a lot. I still have my sticky notes stuck to my monitor to look at every day what I want to really become. So that's not something that you want to just do while you enter back to work. It works at any time during your career.
Amazing. I love that idea so much. I used to keep like a brag folder even of like wins at work, emails that I received from people to help build confidence. And on a rainy day when you're feeling down about yourself, you can go back to those comments, those emails and those wins and remind yourself. So I love that so much. So we do have time for a few more questions. Again, anyone who's tuning in, this is your opportunity to ask our folks who've taken career breaks, who've successfully transitioned back to work, your burning questions. So I'll give you a minute to allow that to stew, and I'll tell you about some of our upcoming opportunities that we have available right now. And then we can come back to questions if any more come through. So the opportunity to ask questions is not over just yet. But I will share that we do have some opportunities available right now with the Fidelity Resume program, where Sampada and Pavitra participated. So applications for this are closing in just a few short weeks, but we're still looking for Java developers, system analysts, business analysts, and project managers in a few different locations in New England, specifically Rhode Island, New Hampshire, and Boston, and then the Research Triangle in North Carolina, as well as the greater, I think it's Dallas-Fort Worth or Westlake area with opportunities as well. So go to you can visit our jobs portal at the bottom here, reachhire.com/jobs. And we also have an upcoming opportunity which will be available in Tampa, Florida. This is also Java developers and project managers and business analysts. And those opportunities should be available hopefully in the next few weeks. We have not launched this program yet, so the client is still under wraps. But if you subscribe to our newsletter at reachhire.com, you'll be the first to know when these opportunities arise. And then you'll also be abreast to our webinar series, which will be available at the end of the summer to help update your resume, your LinkedIn, and get prepared for your interviews. And then finally, if you'd like to connect with us, here's all of our contact information. You can find us on all social platforms at ReachHire. We are on LinkedIn. And of course, our website has a plethora of information and videos and resources for you as a returnee. I believe there may have been another question that came up. Can we talk more about the interview process? Absolutely. Let's see. Someone said, I haven't interviewed in quite a long time and I'm nervous about that. What can I expect or how can I prepare? I think that would be a great question for one of our panelists to ask. How did you prepare for the interview process and what was it like?
I can take that question. So that's something that I've been meaning to talk about too. Interview preparations can be hard. So I used all the online resources. For example, technology. I had a technical interview as well as a face-to-face interview. Technical interview could be anything from coding or answering technology questions. The other one will be a face-to-face interview with the person based on your behavior, your attitude, and everything. For all these different requirements, we have online resources available. We have Prompt.com. I used interviewing.io. These are free resources available online to go and take mock interviews anytime you want, as much as you feel comfortable with the interviews. I used all these resources before I got comfortable with my interview. Or if you're not comfortable using anything online, you can prep at home with the person that you're comfortable with. You can do a mock interview at any time you want.
Any added advice there on preparing for interviews? And then we have one more question I'd like to address before we close out.
I would say for me, it's like, because I knew I'm interviewing for T-Mobile. So definitely I wanted to do some more research about T-Mobile, finding out which areas they are going, what are the business operations, and what could be few things that you can even surprise your your interviewer as to you know quite a lot. So learn about the organizations definitely that you are also interviewing with.
Great advice. Sampana, anything else to add?
Yeah, I can add just a quick point there. So it's also it's both ways, right? It's as much about they interviewing you as much about you interviewing them as well. So I would say don't take this opportunity to prepare your questions that you want to ask them regarding the role, the company, the future opportunities, because that would also help you decide whether you want that role or not. So I would say you spend time focusing on how you're going to answer their questions, but spend some time on what you want to know, which will be which will be helping you decide when you go into that role.
Absolutely. Lots of great interviewing advice. I appreciate that. So the last question is about addressing career gap on your resume. So I'll answer that one just very quickly. So with ReachHire, we encourage you to add your career break to your resume. We love to talk about your career break during your first interview and throughout the process of working with ReachHire. We of course we have to see career breaks on resumes in order to qualify for our programs. Most of our programs require a 2-year career break or more. Some are flexible at a 1.5 year and 3/4 mark, but 2 years plus is most requirements, is what's most required for our programs. And if you're doing a job search elsewhere, you still should feel empowered to put your career gap on your resume. I've seen a lot of folks put a one-liner that says currently on a career break to care for my family, currently on a career break to explore volunteering opportunities, currently on a career break to relocate. You know, there are tons of ways that you could include that. Or even add a marker sort of underneath all of your experiences, you know, career break. And then what are the volunteer things you're doing during your career break? What type of upskilling have you participated in? There's tons of ways to include your career gap on your resume. And actually on your LinkedIn now, there's no requirement to add an employer for experiences. So you can actually now add a career break to your LinkedIn and be able to highlight that on your profile and add some of the similar facts and figures. How have you been upskilling? What have you been doing with your time, volunteering, caring for a family member, or raising kids? However you're using your career break, you are building transferable skills that ReachHire loves to hear about and loves to embrace, but also might be very valuable to a potential future employer. So that's just a quick little tidbit on resumes. And I appreciate all of our panelists for taking an hour out of their day today to be here and share your stories. I hope that all of our participants took away at least one valuable nugget or have built your confidence in your job search by hearing these wonderful stories. So thank you, Sampada and Menka and Pavitra for being here. And Dipali, I'm going to pass it back to you to close us out.
Thank you. And a quick question from one of the live participants. She wants to know that if she's already applied for a particular organization within ReachHire, and can she apply for another organization if there's another opening? So let's say she's applied with Fidelity, and now can she apply for T-Mobile?
Yes, absolutely. Apply to as many of our programs as you feel called to do. And our recruiters are typically the ones that will look at the resumes, reach out if there's a fit for one of our programs, and be able to pass that resume along to a program that's the best fit or clients that's the best fit. We have folks that apply to multiple of our programs and even apply multiple times. So we invite that.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Hannah. Awesome. Thank you so much, Pavitra, Sampada, Menka, for taking time out and being here. Thank you, Hannah, for moderating the event so beautifully. For me, some of the takeaways was, embrace uncertainty. That was such good advice. And Hannah, I loved your idea of a brag folder, because as relocating spouses on a career break, we suffer from imposter syndrome. And I think a brag folder is just the perfect, kind of an antidote to that. So thank you so much for that. We'll quickly wind up with just 2 quick updates from VR Pistachio. So, the events that we have, at VR Pistachio, we just wanted to give you a quick glance for what we have here. So we have various pods that are happening on VR Pistachio. We have a career pod, we have speed mentoring events. We have, we've had travel related events, we have health related events. We have a data analytics pod. We have coffee and conversations, which are just conversations from, again, subject matter experts in a very casual, low pressure kind of setting. So stay connected with us, be a part of VR Pistachio. For the panelists, if you want to come on VR Pistachio as mentors, we would love to have you. And I'm sure our mentees would benefit from you tremendously. For everybody else, be a member, be a mentor, be a volunteer, but just stay connected with us. We would love to, we kind of seek your help to make us bigger, better, so that we can help more relocating spouses. And moving on, we just wanted to kind of quickly update you on our e-learning. It's called Own Your Story. And I think this was kind of a common theme that came throughout our conversation today as well, that we often struggle to kind of introduce ourselves with confidence. We tend to concentrate on what we don't have as compared to what we do have. For example, a typical example would be we would concentrate too much on the career gap, but not concentrate on the skills that we have gained during this career gap. So we have developed this e-learning course to bring you the wisdom from experiences of relocating spouses. By the end of it, you will develop a new way of thinking that highlights your strengths, articulate your top story from your experiences, and to apply powerful frameworks to write and own your story. And all of this for just the price of a coffee. So, we just wanted to kind of, let you know that we do have this e-learning. And thank you again so much, everyone. This was a lovely and interactive conversation. I'm sure all our participants have hugely benefited from this. So thank you once again. And Alexis, thank you for coordinating this whole thing.
Thank you.
Have a great afternoon, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.